1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Republic was on its last leg. A century prior, after fighting the new Sith Wars for many long years, it had finally collapsed, retreating to the core and a few narrow pockets of space, beaten and broken. The only thing stopping the legions of the Sith from finishing the job were the Jedi. In that terrible age, the Jedi had taken up rule of the systems abandoned by the Republic, becoming lords of those far-flung worlds which had no other defense against Lord Khan and the Brotherhood of Darkness. These Jedi lords formed an army of light to battle the Sith, and in 1000 BBY, those two armies met on the plains of Rusan, where they would decide the fate of the galaxy. Today, we're going to tell the story of the last battle of Rusan, in which the Republic was saved beyond all hope and the Sith were nearly destroyed by themselves.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
1,000 years before that fateful day, an Umbaran Jedi Master by the name of Thanius left the Order and declared himself Darth Rusan, the leader of a new generation of Sith. The numbers of these new Sith quickly swelled, with many young Jedi abandoning the Order to join them. Ultimately, Rusan himself only reigned for a few years before his own students killed him, but he was followed by a long line of would-be Dark Lords, all of whom waged unrelenting war against the Republic. The new Sith Wars, as they were later called, slowly crippled the Republic, even though the Sith fought each other almost as much as they fought their mutual enemies. The Republic slowly receded, abandoning vast swaths of the Rim in favor of protecting the core while it still could. The Sith claimed many of these abandoned worlds, but many more were left on their own, defenseless in a galaxy gone mad. Into this power vacuum stepped the Jedi. As they had in millennia long past, Jedi Knights roamed the galaxy, protecting the innocent from the Sith and other threats. As the Republic continued to atrophy, Jedi started to become permanent guardians on some planets. Many of these worlds built manors and castles for their protectors, who became known as Jedi Lords. The Lords, their students, and their offspring dedicated themselves to the protection of small realms scattered across the galaxy. In this manner, the Jedi kept the Sith from total victory, even as the Republic slowly died. In 1100 BBY, the Sith came tantalizingly close to total victory, only to turn on each other at the last minute and cost themselves Coruscant. Decades of Sith infighting ensued, and so, even as the Republic entered its Dark Age, hope was somehow not lost. But the disunity of the Sith didn't last. 1010 years before the Battle of Yavin, Sith Lord Skiri Khan founded the Brotherhood of Darkness, uniting the disparate lords of the Sith under one banner at last. Issuing the title of Darth and many other ancient Sith traditions, Khan recognized all claimants to the title of Dark Lord as equals under the Brotherhood. 20,000 Sith flocked to join him, forming themselves into an army hell-bent on the conquest of the Republic. But Khan and his followers weren't going to have an easy shot at the core. Knowing the threat the Brotherhood posed to the galaxy, the Jedi Lord Hoth called for an army of light to combat the growing darkness, and all the Jedi Lords in the galaxy soon flocked to his banner. In conjunction with the tattered remnants of the Republic military, the combined armies of the Jedi Lords battled the Sith in system after system in a conflict later named the War of Light and Darkness. As this war went on, something incredible started to happen. Hoth started to drive the Sith back. He routed the Brotherhood at Hoth, at Dromund Kaas, and even at Rune, Lord Khan's former stronghold. At last, the battle was joined. 1002 years before the Battle of Yavin, in retaliation for their earlier defeats, the Sith attacked the mid-rim planet Rusan, an unremarkable backwater where the Republic had set up a staging area. Under the leadership of Lord Khan and Lord Kopex, the Sith emerged victorious against Republic forces and claimed Rusan for their own. The Republic launched a feeble counterattack, but the Sith easily drove them back. Their victories didn't last, however. In 1001 BBY, the Army of Light descended on Rusan, sparking a third battle. With Lord Khan occupied elsewhere, the Sith were routed as thousands of Jedi descended on the planet under the command of Lord Hoth. By this point, both the Jedi and the Sith were weary from fighting across the galaxy, but neither of them were willing to simply cede Rusan to the enemy. The Brotherhood of Darkness responded with their own counterattack, driving the Army of Light off Rusan, but Hoth and his followers returned, and once more, they routed the Sith. In the 6th Battle of Rusan, the Sith were defeated again, and so Khan brought all the forces he could muster to bear against Hoth as the 7th and final battle brewed. In 1000 BBY, both Hoth and Khan set up their camps on Rusan, preparing for the final clash. Both had already lost thousands of their followers to the previous battles, in which the casualties had been uniformly heavy. Both were constantly trying to bring in reinforcements, but casualties for those reinforcement troops were high as well. A blockade of Sith warships above the planet destroyed any Jedi ships that tried to break through, while the remnants of the Republic Navy destroyed any Sith ship they caught headed to the Rusan system. Both sides became so desperate for reinforcements, they started conscripting Force-sensitive children. All of the greatest champions of the Jedi and Sith gathered on Rusan for the final battle. Hoth grouped his armies into 7 legions of light, each led by a Jedi Lord. Of the 7 Great Lords that led these legions, 6 are known. Nuar IV, Berathon, Tipo, Sali, Gale, and the infamously ridiculous Valentine Farfola. Khan, meanwhile, had some of the greatest of the Sith Lords at his side, including Copex, Quartus, Sevis Var, Lator, and Githany, a Jedi traitor known for her use of the Light Whip. In the 7th Battle of Rusan, Jedi and Sith clashed in open war for the last time. Both sides lost some of their greatest champions and thousands more. Between them, Rusan burned. Wide swaths of what was once a lush world were rendered desert between conventional weapons and terrible displays of Force power. The Jedi and the Sith sent large armies of non-Force sensitives into battle, armed with whatever could be scrounged up, down to primitive battle axes and polearms. The tides of the battle went back and forth, and before long, both armies were near the breaking point, though neither was willing to concede. The battle reached its climax when the self-proclaimed Darth Bane joined Khan and his followers on Rusan. Bane had developed a distaste for Khan and, indeed, for the Brotherhood as a whole, seeing it as an affront to what the Sith were supposed to be. Bane goaded Khan in front of his men, and when Khan tried twice to have him killed, Bane survived both assassination attempts, causing some of the Sith to question Khan's leadership. Despite this, Bane's return marked the beginning of a Sith surge. The greatest lords of the Brotherhood of Darkness conjured up a fearsome force storm on Bane's suggestion, devastating the Army of Light and opening the door for Khan and his forces to attack. But the Sith's charge was driven back by the last-minute return of Lord Farfalla, who had left Rusan to get more men. He returned to Rusan with 300 Jedi Knights fresh to battle and a fleet of anachronistic warships, which promptly broke the Sith blockade and scattered their renewed offensive. To make matters worse for the Sith, Hoth and Farfola, who hadn't been on the best terms previously, managed to overcome their differences and unite their armies. Together, the reinforced Army of Light scattered the forces of the Brotherhood of Darkness, forcing the last of the Sith Lords to retreat to a final redoubt, a cave deep in one of Rusan's valleys. As the remnants of the Sith forces gathered at the mouth of the cave, Khan and the surviving Sith Lords prepared a weapon of last resort, a thought bomb. Darth Bane had given Khan the idea and presented him with ancient scrolls describing how to conjure up such a weapon as a peace offering after Khan tried to have him killed. This, however, had been a trick. The thought bomb was a suicidal weapon, a concentration of Force energy that, when unleashed, would utterly annihilate all Force sensitives in the vicinity, body and soul alike. The shattered remnants of the victim's souls would then be gathered into an iridescent silver orb, where they would endure eternal torment. Bane had led Khan to believe that the greatest of Sith Lords were strong enough to survive such a ritual, but Bane had lied. By that point, however, Khan didn't care much. He had been driven mad by the dark side and by the collapse of his empire, and all he wanted was to slaughter his enemies. The Army of Light pursued Khan to the valley and quickly dispersed the Sith followers gathered around the mouth of the cave. From the survivors, Hoth learned of what Khan was planning. he ordered Farfalla to take the Army of Light as far from the valley as possible before assembling 99 Jedi Knights and marching down into the caves. He confronted Khan just as the thought bomb finished forming and tried to convince him to back down. The mad Sith Lord refused. As Hoth lunged at Khan in a last-ditch attempt to stop him, Khan detonated the thought bomb with a clap of his hands. In an instant, all those present, Jedi and Sith, were consumed and destroyed. With the detonation of the thought bomb, the 7th Battle of Rusan was over. With it ended the War of Light and Darkness, the Dark Age of the Republic, the New Sith Wars, and indeed the Sith Wars altogether. Against all hope, the Republic flourished after the battle's conclusion, rapidly rebuilding itself and becoming stronger and more prosperous than ever before. But all this came at a high cost. Lord Hoth and some of the Jedi Order's finest perished in the battle, and it was then believed the Sith had been wiped out completely. This battle was the deadliest clash between Jedi and Sith in galactic history, and though the Jedi won on paper, in reality, almost everyone lost. There was one sole victor in the 7th Battle of Rusan. It was not Khan or any of his followers who had been consumed by the thought bomb. It was not Farfalla or any of the other Jedi who left Rusan only to mourn shortly after the battle's conclusion. Despite the Republic Golden Age that followed the battle, nobody in the Republic won either. No, the winner of this last great battle was Darth Bane. With the detonation of the thought bomb, Bane's rivals destroyed themselves, leaving him free to remake the Sith as he saw fit. From the ashes of the Brotherhood of Darkness, he secretly formed the Order of the Sith Lords, an order which would be governed by his rule of 2. Under this new order, Bane's Sith would avoid the mistakes that the new Sith had fallen for. They would not build armies to challenge the Jedi openly. Instead, they would concentrate their power and work from the shadows, destroying the Republic from within. Before he left the battlefields of Rusan, Bane also gained an apprentice to join him in his endeavor, a young girl who called herself Zannah. The 7th Battle of Rusan was one of the most important events in galactic history. It sparked the Rusan reformations, which rebuilt the Republic and heralded a new golden age and time of peace. After it, the Sith would not rear their heads for nearly 1,000 years. But while it was remembered as one of the greatest victories of the light, the reality of the battle was far more complicated. After all, the brightest light casts the darkest shadow, and it was the shadow of Rusan that ultimately brought down the Republic. So that's the story of the 7th Battle of Rusan, the last great battle between the Jedi and the Sith. But what do you think? Would you like to hear more about Darth Bane or the new Sith Wars? Feel free to let us know that and more in the comment section below. And just before that Star Wars algorithm sucks you deeper and deeper, I propose a bit of a change, a bit of a shake-up through our new channel called The Braved. We go through all different eras of history to find some of the most badass individuals from these eras. Very high quality videos, and we post once a week, so make sure you check that out. And if you just want to vibe to some beats, check out our Relax Jack music channel, where we've got some awesome music and some awesome visual effects that I think you'll all love. And if you want to join our behind the scenes Discord, where you can chat to myself and the other team members who work on this channel, as well as access to some exclusive content, then consider donating to our Patreon. And if you just want to join the wider community, check us out on our GGN and our Geetsly's main Discord server. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.